Hello, everyone. A very, very beautiful day today. Classic day. Sunshine, fresh air, brisk fresh air, which reminded me, I have not said anything about the quality of air, the quality of what we're actually breathing. A whole subject in itself. Today, the air was beautifully fresh and invigorating. It had a particular composition, a particular ionic composition. It has a charge in it, an invigorating electrical charge in it. It was clean, certainly out here in Hurstbridge, it was clean. And it was a real tonic. The best environment, of course, in which to breathe is higher up in the mountains, preferably surrounded by coniferous trees with their little pine needles, which act like negative ion generators, or by the sea. These are ideal, obviously, and it's no secret that the Indian yogis would want to move higher and higher up in the mountains to extract the pure prana of the energetic component of the breath from the very highly charged, pure mountain airs. When I was doing Qigong many years ago, the teacher would take us out and there was a row of pine trees at the back, and we would get as near as possible to those pine trees. It was on another property. Put our hands out, breathe, and absorb the ionic essence from the pine trees. Fantastic. One can try and recreate these situations in nature through having air filters, ion generators, etc. at home, but it's never quite the same. Nature rules. Nature rules. Being in pristine nature cannot be reproduced. Cannot be reproduced. This morning was that kind of morning when you wake up and you say, this is the kind of day when I feel like Gordon MacRae. And that is my first question to you today. Why would you wake up today and feel like Gordon MacRae? Has anybody got an answer for me? For a free copy of the book? Yes.
Is it from that song, Paul?
Which song is that, Adrian?
Oh, What a Beautiful Morning.
Ah, good man. Yes. From which movie?
Oh,
it's
an old one. It's an old one.
Yes, I'll give you a clue. I first saw this movie when I was 7. I remember it distinctly, which is why it's my favorite movie. My favorite musical was.
Oklahoma?
It's Oklahoma.
That's it, yeah.
It's Oklahoma. I think Adrian gets it. Yes. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got a wonderful feeling. Everything's going my way. Wonderful. Look, I presume everybody's actually seen this movie. If they haven't, well, you are missing something very super. And of course, at the opening of the movie, Gordon MacRae, who plays Curly, the hero, is riding along very casually on his horse, taking in the beautiful day and singing with his wonderful Gordon MacRae voice. And we, of course, realize in the movie that Curly is a generally good-humored sort of fellow because he's an optimist. And we know from research, of course, not that we need research to tell us, that optimists tend to be in a good mood. And we know from the research that optimists tend to be in reasonable mental and physical health. So there is a lot to be said for optimism if you can muster it. But the important thing is that Curly says he has a wonderful feeling. The feeling just arose in him. He wasn't doing breathing practice or visualization or affirmations to our knowledge. He simply felt, because that's in his nature, to feel, oh, what a wonderful morning. And I must say, even though I am a pessimist by nature, when I was out on my bike this morning, I did feel what a beautiful morning and felt very good about it. So the moral of the story is getting out on a beautiful day like today, first thing, is so good for your biorhythms, so good for your mood, and so good for your breathing. So, Adrian, I think you get the book. Maybe I've given you one already, but who knows? Okay, what are we talking about today? Just a quick recap. Now, first of all, there was a little bit of discussion last time about the pause at the end of expiration. Now, is anybody present today who asks me that question? Now, yes, you asked me the question. That's Sheila. And we kind of left it up in the air to some extent, I think. I just want to elaborate on that because it's a little bit of an interesting and perhaps complicated question. But my answer is to quote authority, which is Andy Caponegro in his book, The Miracle of the Breath. Now, he spends quite a lot of time discussing the fact that getting, as it were, stuck in the expiration pause can be associated with lethargy and depression. And he says we must guard against it. And that if we are spending time in that pause, we must correct it. And that pause should be no longer than the pause at the end of inspiration. So I do not comment other than that, of course, when we are fatigued or depressed, yes, we do tend to spend more time just resting for a while before the effort of the next inspiration. Whether one should correct that vigorously or not is a question of your personal experimentation and being your own authority. But if you're interested in more discussion on that, The Miracle of the Breath by Andy Caponegro, an American breath expert of many, many years, who started life as a classical guitarist, so he knows about harmony and rhythm. Just to recap a little bit on last week, talked a lot about the nose. One thing I think I might have omitted was to say that breathing through the right nostril at night is associated with better sleep architecture. So that means that it is probably preferable to sleep on your left side. A majority of people do sleep on one side or the other, but 25% sleep on their backs, which is not good, or on their fronts, which is probably not so good either. Sleeping on your left side is the optimal position. Let's wake ourselves up, tone ourselves. Okay, ideally, we will be doing picking grapes, which would give us a good stretch, open up the thoracic cavity. So if we're sitting, we'll just roll our shoulders a little bit. Open up the chest a little bit. A little bit of tapping on the chest just to get things going. Another deep breath. Ah. And we're going to be sniffing, as we have done before. 3 lots of sniffing, little pause, 3 lots more sniffing. Sorry. 4 lots of sniffing, little pause, another 4 lots of sniffing. Like this. Let's do just 3 rounds. Hopefully we all did a bit of sniffing. 1 more round. Notice how you feel. Notice how you feel. These are immortal words. Notice how you feel. Yushin Zhenlin, who was professor of psychology at Chicago, and who wrote the book Focusing and other books on the focusing technique, which is used by many thousands of people around the world. Originally was doing research on what were the effective ingredients in counseling. And he basically distilled out one major effective ingredient, which was that a person had the capacity to tune in to what they were feeling. Tuning in to what you're feeling, which means tuning into the body. That's where we feel. We don't feel in our minds, our heads. We're feeling in our body. Feelings are somatic, and they are the mediating layer, as it were, between the physical body and the mind, our self-consciousness. So, knowing what we're feeling is key. More on that a little later. Let's just do a little bit of nasal breathing, alternate nasal breathing, just to balance ourselves out a little bit.
Can I just ask a quick question, Paul? You know, with that last breath that we did, like, why aren't we just doing sort of 8 continuous ones in? Why is it 4, pause 4?
Because when you're doing the picking grapes, you go down and you do 1 lot of 4 with 1 motion, and then you're transitioning to another motion. So there's a little bit of a pause while you transition. That's all. There's no necessity really to pause if you can go fluidly from one movement, the backward movement, to then the picking grape movement.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
No problem. Let's do some alternate nostril breathing for 2 minutes. So we're going to be breathing in for 4 through the left nostril. I'm not going to be doing any pauses or retention. We're going to then out for 4, the right nostril, then in for 4, the right nostril, out for 4, the left nostril, and we finish on out for 4 on the left nostril. I'll put on my metronome. Hopefully everybody can hear that. And we're just going to do 2 minutes. In for 4, starting in the left nostril, out for 4 in the right nostril, and back and forth 2 fingers on the nose, closing the left nostril with the ring finger, the right nostril with the thumb. Let's start. Okay, just finish up on breathing out through the left nostril. And check out how you're feeling. What effect does that have? With continuing practice, obviously, we can use higher and higher counts if it's comfortable. Or we can stick with the count that is optimally comfortable for us, or optimally the count which is giving alert relaxation. Or we can stick with the count that gives optimal heart rate variability. Although, of course, the way we feel alert and relaxed is going to be the best guide to the ideal count. We can do retention at the end of inspiration and expiration. So we might do 6, hold for 3, 6, hold for 3, so on and so forth. There are so many variations. It's a question of experimentation. With alternate nostril breathing, something like 6-3, 6-3 is around optimal for me, or just 6-6 or 8-8. But be your own authority. That is the key. The fact that we have a natural nasal cycle, which alternates every 2 hours or so, and that is in sync with the change in dominance between 2 cerebral hemispheres, shows you just how important this natural rhythm of the brain is. The ultradian rhythm, and the fact the brain wants a break while it's making the transition from cerebral dominance on one side to cerebral dominance on the other. And of course, one hemisphere doesn't completely take over. It's just a change of emphasis. The hemispheres are always working together. Even on tasks like a speech, you know, speech, the so-called speech centers are on the left side, but the right side is monitoring the melody of the speech, the emotional meaning of the speech, the poetry of the speech. So it gives the emotional flavor of what the person is saying. And that's where people with severe autism, that's where they have the difficulty. They understand the meaning of the words, but they don't understand the emotional nuances of what the other person is saying. Okay. Now, I just wanted to say also a brief word about the importance of relaxation and the fact that there are two aspects to all practices, not only breathing practices, but all meditational or self-improvement practices. There's a yang aspect, an active, energetic side, and a yin aspect, a sensitive, receptive side. When we pause after a breath practice to see how we feel, this is moving into a yin sensitivity, openness to what this exercise has done for us. And very relaxed practices, such as gentle, rhythmic breath, are obviously more yin. Practices which emphasize building up vital capacity, which we were talking about last night, as having a correlation with longevity and health, building up your capacity to breathe, how much breath you can take in, how vigorously you can take it in, how vigorously you can expel it. These practices are, of course, more yang. Younger people more naturally take to yang practices. Older people more naturally take to yin practices. It's a matter of energy. We have less fire as we get older. That's natural. But it doesn't matter how old you are, you're still going to do some yang practices to keep strong and to keep that vital capacity going. So doing the balanced breath, for example, with higher counts is a way of exercising your vital capacity. There are now devices which can help you. One is the Aerofit, this little device which you breathe through. It's got two little wheels on it, which adjust the resistance that the little machine is providing to your inhalation and exhalation. So you can vary the resistance to your breathing practice. That strengthens breathing muscles. It encourages increasing vital capacity and is something perhaps of an antidote to increasing stiffness in the lung tissues as we get older. If anybody wants to ask me about the Aerofit, they can give me a call or correspond with me some other way, and I'll speak to them about it. But I don't want to go into it now. This is a complex device which sends all the information to your phone. You get various statistics about your breathing practice. There are various programs that you can enter to improve your ability to breathe in, breathe out, to retain, to control, etc., your breath. It's quite elaborate. Aerofit. Okay.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Sure.
Do you think this would be great for people who have got breathlessness issues, especially those people who've now got long COVID, which breathlessness seems to be a part of it?
Look, I think that is a question which requires a lot of answering. So I won't address that now. I think that if you had long COVID, you certainly need to start at fairly low settings on a device like this. Any device which improves breathing is good, but you'd have to find out for yourself whether it suits you. And it's not great initially, probably, if you're a hyperventilator, which you may well be if you've had COVID with respiratory complications. So this is a complex question, and look, I won't say any more about it.
Okay, thank you. So I guess it's something, again, like everything that you're going over, need to seek your own practitioner's advice on this.
Absolutely. And look, I don't think the Aerofit's been around that long, and a body of experience needs to build up around it. I haven't had mine for very long, just this year. I've yet to build up a body of experience with it, or to get feedback from other people who have one. So I'm in a state of comparative ignorance about all that. The topic for today is sound. Can't talk about breath without talking about making sound. Obviously, sound is fundamental. Our breathing goes through a voice box to make sound. Our personality is our appearance to the world largely through sound. Persona, the Latin for mask. The mask was a sort of mask that was worn by actors in the Greek and the Roman theater, which had a dual function. It portrayed them in a particularly, it let the audience know what they were supposed to be symbolizing and portraying. But it would often have a mouthpiece so that people could project their voices to the back row. So it's a pair through sonus, sound, through sound. Personality is what you are through sound. So super important. How we project through sound. And we project through sound, obviously, in many ways. Talking, which is an inferior way of projecting sound. If you're just talking about producing sound. Chanting, which is an advanced way of producing sound. Singing or other vocal practices, which I shall talk about. Obviously, look, this whole topic is huge. Sound healing is a huge topic. We'll touch on some major features, and then we'll do the practice that combines sound with the breath practice that Sri Bala taught. Here's a terrific book, The World is Sound by Joachim Berendt. Fabulous book. The world is sound. There's a story, many of you would have heard it, about the anthropologist who goes and talks to an indigenous person about their worldview. So the anthropologist asks, what's your view of how the world is constructed? And the indigenous woman says to him, well, look, the world rests on a turtle. Okay, the guy says. And so, well, what's the turtle resting on? Well, she says, it's resting on another turtle. Ah, okay. Well, what's that turtle resting on? Well, she says, it's turtles all the way down, and its vibrations all the way down. We know from even modern reductionist physicalist physics that it's vibrations all the way down. Everything's vibrating. And for there to be anything, those vibrations have to be in harmony with one another. So it's vibrations all the way down and all the way up. Everything in the cosmos is vibrating. The galaxy's going around. That's a vibration. It's a cyclic, recurrent event. Our galaxy's circling around something else. It's vibrations all the way up and all the way down. The body is a system of vibrations. No question. The heart is vibrating, 60 beats a minute. The breath is vibrating, say 12 beats a minute. The stomach is vibrating, about 3 contractions a minute. So is the intestine, the colon, and particularly, of course, the brain, which has interlocking frequencies in the theta, alpha, beta, gamma zones. And they interlock with one another. It's vibrations all the way up, all the way down. By using vibration, we help to harmonize the body's vibrational structure. That's the theory. Let's talk about making sound. We can make sound in an uncontrolled way or a controlled way. Our talking is uncontrolled, obviously. We're not talking largely with harmony in mind. Traditional poetry does, of course. It follows a beat. Da 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 da. That's just poetry and song. And of course, if you read Shakespeare or Pride and Prejudice, much 19th century literature, it has a harmony about it, which modern literature, by and large, does not have. Modern poetry certainly doesn't, by and large. You will look in vain at modern poetry to find recurrent rhythmic structures which feel harmonious. What Robert Graves, the famous poet Robert Graves, called sentence sounds. Da 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 da, da 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 da. It's those sentence sounds which, when properly applied, are relaxing. Relaxing. Nowhere to go right now. Nothing to do. It's harmonious. As opposed to, once more, dear friends, unto the breach. Harmonious, but a rising harmony. Well, once more into the breach. Ooh, heady stuff. Okay, so making sounds other than talking, any sound we make, which is not talking, can be therapeutic. This is because we're bottling up stuff all the time. This is nothing new to anybody. We're bottling stuff. We're pushing down. And just making sounds is unbottling, it's uncorking what is being stuffed down. And as we get older, we accumulate these layers upon layers of hardening repression, stuff we've pushed down and bottled down, until they start appearing as knots and hard pieces in the body, calcified areas in the body, in the muscles, the stuff that the myotherapists love to stick their thumbs in, those hardening areas of repression. So just by making any sound, we release. It's part of the body's release mechanism, just as exhalation is a natural relaxation, letting go. The exhalation with sound is a letting go of suppressed pain. So let's start. The most elementary form of expression through the voice is groaning. Oh, oh, oh. And groaning is very good. Now you've got your microphones turned off. Just do some experimental groans for just half a minute. I'll tell you when to stop groaning. Oh. Don't overventilate. Take your time. Oh. 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 Okay. Oh. You can groan as much as you like, obviously. And if you're home by yourself, groan loudly. See where the groan takes you. See where groaning takes you. This is what's recommended by Laurel Keyes in her book, Tony. Laurel Keyes in her book, Tony. Now, this was first published in 1973. It's a rather remarkable book. Laurel Keyes, she was a woman who obviously was doing self-development work with people. After one of her groups, she felt a kind of energy in the room. And she felt something building inside of her. And this thing built and then expressed itself as a sound which really kind of shook her up and had a transforming effect on her. It wasn't produced by her. It was produced by the body. The body came up with this incredible sound, this tone. So she explored this phenomenon and went on to teach people how to find the tone within themselves, which would have a transforming, healing effect. She advised people to start by standing, swaying around a little bit to loosen up, and starting groaning. And just see where the groaning went. And I don't want to prejudge your experiences for yourself by saying any more about that process, how she found that process develop in people.
Paul, can I ask a question?
Please do.
Is groaning different from growling? Because my groans tend to end in growls.
Oh, I'll go with a growl. Go with a growl. It's all good. Whatever sound comes out, whatever sound the body feels like making has to be good. No, go with the growl.
So even if it's a yell or a growl or a groan, it doesn't matter as long as it's sound.
A yell, a groan, whatever, a growl. So Sheila, are you accustomed to growling?
It's Lindy.
Sorry, Lindy. Where are you? Oh, Lindy. Sorry, Lindy. There you are. Are you accustomed to growling?
Probably.
Oh, that's very good. Do you find it help? Do you find growling helpful?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's very. I do a practice with my chiropractor that's called somatic respiratory integration, and each different type of stage or each different breath has a different sound and a different movement. He always talks about breath, movement, sound.
Right, very good.
So
Sounds
yeah, I quite often growl or yell or feeling sort of like almost sort of like there's a dragon or there's a dog that's bringing forth this growl.
Oh, dragon sounds good.
Yep. I was born in the year of the dragon, so.
Excellent. Thank you for that feedback. That's truly excellent. Whatever comes out, yes, the movement, the breath, the sound, absolutely. Sound, make sound, and stomp around. I like it if the house is empty. I can stomp around, making movements, making sounds, whatever. Sing. Certain little mantras, spontaneous mantras, can come into your head, and you just go with that. Like one of mine is hooya, 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 hooya. Walking around the house, hooya, hooya, stamping, hooya, hooya, so on and so forth. This is kind of reminiscent of the Sufis doing zikr. You know, they're all in a big circle, and they start off slowly doing a chant like "Ella, Ella," and they get faster and faster and louder as they're, you know, swaying to and fro into the circle, out of the circle. Fantastic. There's somebody running around the outside of the circle, sprinkling rose water everywhere. There's somebody singing. Oh, fantastic. That's all we require. Let all this stuff out and then start moving up.
Would this be something to do like with the New Zealand haka as well?
Oh, I'm sure. Yes. 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 I mean, I don't know much about the haka. I mean, it looks particular. I mean, obviously it's a war. It's a war chant. And it's to deter, obviously, enemies. But it's a very effective fire ceremony, full of fire. So, free expression. In this territory also, laughing, screaming, whatever. But finding a rhythmic expression, a nonsense word that you can chant as you go around, stamping or walking, swinging the arms. This is very, very therapeutic because it's rhythmic, it's harmonious, and it's more coherent than just kind of groaning or screaming or carrying on. And look, it has psychological and physical benefits, obviously. It's benefits on all levels, for the body, for the mind, for the spirit. This kind of process can operate on all levels, physical, mental, and soul, spirit levels. And if you are someone who is more introverted, it's especially good for you because more expression means more feeling, which means more contact with the world, moving out. Just as extroverts have to be a bit more quiet, extroverts have to be louder, more expression. Expression, feeling, contact. Feeling, expression, contact. That's the magic formula. Controlled, more controlled breathing and sound complements breather expression, more dynamic expression. Oh, by the way, when I say that dynamic expression, reminds me, of course, of the dynamic meditation of Sri Rajneesh, which was very much kind of letting it all hang out in a very, very vocal, forceful way. Anybody ever do dynamic meditation? Sri Rajneesh, controlled sound. The simplest form of controlled sound is humming. The humming effect, Jonathan and Andy Goldman. Jonathan Goldman, well-known sound therapist. It's got a very nice website. Basically, the virtues of humming. And so let's start by humming. Do a little bit of humming. And maybe a little bit low. Or is that okay for everybody? Everybody try. Let's take a deep breath and slowly hum on that note. Okay, let's do 4 in and then 8 out, humming on that note. I'll give the note to you again. Breathing in for 4. Everybody okay with that? Let's do it again. Breathing in for 4, 2, 3, 4. Everybody okay with that? I take that as a yes.
Yes.
Are we breathing in for 4 and then humming for 8? Is that
That is correct. That is what we are doing.
Thanks. Yep.
Let us do that one more time. Breathing in for 4, 3, 4. Now, I want you to take a breath, hold your nose, and hum. Just a trick. Of course, you can hum while holding your nose. And one does that little trick simply to illustrate the fact that humming is very nasal. It's vibrating the nasal cavities, and there's some evidence to suggest that it's promoting the release and movement of the nitric oxide transmitter out of the sinuses, in the nasal cavity, down into the lungs to dilate your bronchioles. So humming not only is good for relaxing the brain, but you're getting nitric oxide into the circulation, into your lungs. And you are vibrating the brain with a beautiful frequency. Now let's do 3 in and 9 out, which will prepare us for doing the Om, which we're going to do in a moment. Let's do 3 in, just humming on the note. 3 in. Okay. Let's do that again. 3 in. Very good. 3 in, 9 in. So we're doing 1 in and 3 out there. 1 block of 3 in, 3 blocks of 3 out. Now you could, just humming is a great practice. Humming anytime, or humming more formally, doing counting so that you get the benefits of humming, the prolonged expiration or relaxation, and you have a little pause at the end just to sense how you are, and do another round, a little pause, another round, etc. Very relaxing and also alerting. So ideally, we're getting alert relaxation from that process. Now, Sri Bala, hello.
That's a good question.
Yes, Sheila.
You haven't mentioned anything about volume while humming, so presumably it's irrelevant.
Don't worry about volume.
Okay, thank you.
Just do what is comfortable. And as we move to the Om practice, you'll find you need more volume as you increase the count. But we're going to start pretty much, hopefully, pretty comfortable. The Om practice, taught by Sri Bala, not original to him, I don't think, but certainly the Om practice as it is traditionally taught in pranayama is the fundamental sound practice in Hindu metaphysics, in yoga, pranayama, etc. Om being the primal sound from which everything else arises. It's a primal sound because it embodies, first of all, complete openness. You start with an ah sound. Ah, the most open vowel. Ah. Ah is complete openness, the way the universe originally was, and openness is the way the universe is in its background, silent, spacious aspect. Then you move to oo. You're beginning to close the sound into a rounded vowel, and then humming, the humming sound, which is closed. So from openness, you go to closedness, which is the universe going from total openness and potential to something definite, which has lost its potential. And those are the two sides of our nature. The complete openness and spaciousness of our conscious nature. We are capable in any moment of being completely open and spacious. That's a whole other piece, which is in my book. Or we can close down and be very limited, a limited body with limited beliefs and limited capacities. So Om is from openness and potential to fixedness and concreteness. So Om has these three components. First one, ah. Let's all just do, on this note, an ah. Om. Let's exercise our vocal cords a minute. Go up and down a bit. Oh, so good. You can feel it doing you good. That fantastic open ah. Really, really go for it, you know. Oh, you can feel the energy and potential in the ah. Then the second part of Om is ooh. Ooh. A simple round ooh, ooh, as in stoop or hood. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let's all do a, on this note, let's all do a ooh, ooh. Different quality. And finally, we do an You can change the quality of the by what you do with your tongue. You know, whether it's closer to the palate or not. Don't have to worry too much about that right now. We just do and feel the resonance in our head. So the oh. Now we try and feel whether there's any vibration in the abdomen with in the chest and throat with ooh, and in the head with So this Om practice is vibrating the abdominal centers, chest center, and the head center. The is basically supposed to vibrate anything below the waist. The ooh, anything in the chest, throat. The the head, and interestingly, the arms as well. Let's just do one more oh. One more ooh, ooh, and an Very good. Now we will try and put it together into an Om. So we will be just taking, won't worry about counting the in-breath. We'll take a decent breath, and then we'll do ah for 3 counts, ooh for 3 counts, and for 3 counts. Don't worry about where the vibrations are. Doesn't matter. We're just concentrating on making a nice Om sound, which will be something like Om. 3 counts for 3 counts for 3 counts for Take a deep breath and Drop the shoulders, check out how it makes you feel. We'll do a few more. Stop if you get dizzy, feel odd, get tingling, pain in your head, anything funny happening. Just stop. Because this is a very powerful practice. Not just from the point of view we're taking, decent breaths, but it kind of shakes up the system a bit. It's a very powerful energizer of the subtle body. Not only are we vibrating the physical body, affecting the autonomic nervous system, etc., but we are charging the subtle body. Subtle body, another subject altogether, but I like to think of it as having electromagnetic properties. It doesn't per se, but it acts like it does, and we are charging up the subtle body. Any comments before we do 3 Oms? Don't worry about counting the in-breath. We'll do 3 beats on each syllable on the out-breath. Okay, stop breathing in. Om. Breath. Om. breath. Om. And stop. See how you feel. Drop the shoulders, relaxing, loosen the head. Okay. Any comments? Any difficulties there?
Paul, I just a comment. I put it into the chat about how this is maybe related to choir.
Choir?
Yeah, to the choir, and how people in a choir are more positive from this. How does this work with yoga practice? Because a lot of yoga practice finishes their sessions with an audible practice like this.
Yes, and quite rightly. So it's a very good way to finish a yoga practice. You know, the yoga postures are basically, some people would say, I would say, are all to develop the breath. Yes, they'll improve your flexibility, strength in some respects, but the essential yoga is to facilitate the breath. And therefore, a breath practice at the end of yoga is the fulfillment of the physical postures. And all yoga practices should finish with some pranayama and some chanting. Absolutely. And every day there should be some singing. There should be some singing. Absolutely. I mean, choir is a wonderful thing for people. Just wonderful. So very therapeutic. Very wonderful. And yeah, that's it. A little choir. Now, before we finish, let's just see if we can do 4 in and 4 with each of the ah, oohs, and ums. Let's just do 1 and see how we go with that. So we're going to breathe in for 4 and then 4, 4, 4, ah, ooh, Breathing in. Om. How was that for people? Oh, okay?
It was good for me.
Right. No one has fainted or anything. This is very good. No one feeling strange.
No.
Very good. Very good. So this is just an excellent practice. You basically breathing in for 4 and then out for 12 with the ah, ooh, and That's an excellent baseline practice. Starting with 9, gradually moving up to a session 27 ohms. You may be able to do them straight away, 27 ohms or 12. See how you feel. Your own pace, be your own authority. And eventually you'll be able to do 824 times 108. And that will take you about 50 minutes. And that is literally a breathtaking practice.
Oh,
yes.
Some
Peter.
Comments in the chat. Some people said they got a headache for them. Would there be perhaps a reason for a negative side to this rather than perhaps a positive? Because others are saying they're feeling, like for me, I'm feeling more awake. Normally,
yes.
afternoon snooze time, but I'm feeling more awake.
Sure.
Others say it's very powerful. So what would be a reason for perhaps a negative effect, and what would that be indicating in perhaps?
The thing you've got to be aware of, and thank you for bringing this up because it's so important. The thing you've got to be aware of, mostly with any breath practice, but this one in particular, is that you may start straining. Particularly if you're vocalizing, you're using basically neck muscles, jaw muscles, all sorts of muscles that you don't necessarily use in just the straight rhythmic breath, and you may get muscle tension in the shoulders and the neck, and therefore a headache. Or you may be overventilating and getting effects that you would from overbreathing, the sort of effects we've discussed. So as soon as you get symptoms, you back off, relax, go back to the default breath, gentle abdominal breathing through the nose until things settle. The OM practice really has to be built up over a long period of time. It's a very powerful practice. If you're doing, say, 6 in and 18 out, this is a demanding practice. And you need to take a long time to get to that point. Not that I'm suggesting you should necessarily get to that point. It's not necessary. 4 in, 12 out, AU and M is a very, very good practice. And if you can do 27 of them in a session and feel invigorated and relaxed, that is the goal. You have vibrated all your energy centers, and it will bear fruit for you. Next time we can do some more practices, and we can talk a little bit about this kind of practice, the vibratory practice using sound with color, and applying that to perhaps specific conditions or parts of the body. But I'm open next time to what anybody wants to do, because we said it would like to be a little bit of tying things together, questions, doing a bit of practice, and making sure we're having a bit of fun, for goodness sakes, because that is the ultimate goal, to simply play, simply playing, simply playing. This is a play, nothing serious. The Hindu idea of the world as play, Lila, the world as the play of God. And, rather than the Christian view of this vale of tears, which we eventually will get out of with a bit of luck and avoid going to hell with a bit more luck. Play, music of the spheres. This is what it's all about, having a good time, having a bit of a sing, a bit of a dance. Why not? Nothing serious that bogs us down. Not that we're doing it flippantly, but we're not being po-faced about it. Gordon MacRae attitude. Just need a horse. Okay, look, the homework is to watch Oklahoma. I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere, streaming somewhere on a TV near you. Fabulous movie. You're bound to feel better after watching Oklahoma. For goodness sake, better than West Side Story. Better by a mile. Better by a mile. Not a tragedy, just a real nice story. Shirley Jones' first cinema piece, I think. Plays the love interest. Wow, she's fabulous. Gordon MacRae and Shirley Jones in the orchard together. Fantastic. People will say we're in love. Just get with the program. It's wonderful. Oklahoma. I'm going to watch it right now. Any queries or questions before we close? I've gone on too long today.
I have a question. You talk about the picking of the grapes and the bending down and coming up quickly.
Yes.
What about with people with hypostatic intolerance or POTS?
Yeah, you don't do it.
Okay.
You just do it sitting down.
Okay.
And so you can, do the part where you're opening up the chest by waving the arms back, and you can pick the grapes from your chair. But yeah, look, you're not getting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Yeah, wouldn't want to be doing it, particularly if you've got some neurogenic hypotension.
Excellent, Paul. Thank you once again.
Okay, all good.
Certainly gone a lot longer, but I've got some really good comments in the chat saying how great they enjoyed today. So we'll look forward to next week, and maybe a bit sad that next week might be the last one.
Might be the last one. There will be special prizes for people who can answer questions about Oklahoma.
And also some others from us as well, but you have to attend live.
You have to be live.
Let everybody know.
You have to be alive. Absolutely.
Live and live here too.
You have to be alive and live.
Paul, just one last question. When you were talking about singing and the benefits of singing, would that be the same as the benefits of sort of like going to a sporting event where the crowd is cheering on their team?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you know, we all know this is a catharsis, and it's usually a catharsis with sound. But, you know, it's a very, what I might say, coarse catharsis.
Mm.
And the problem with humans is when they get together in groups, as Carl Jung used to say, he used to quote, I think maybe one of the French anthropologists, you get an abaissement du niveau mental. The level of consciousness goes down. So you're not elevated, you actually go down. You become tribal and atavistic. So a good release, people feel better because they've had a good tribal experience, but maybe not good for the planetary consciousness and atmosphere.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, that's a flippant answer, but you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it was just that when you were talking about the choirs and the group singing, and I just thought if you're in a group with, like at a football match and you're all singing the team song, is that sort of like a similar experience?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. But it is always contaminated with tribalism.
Yep.
Tribalism is the worst sin of the human species. And look, I'll get on my hobby horse and talk about this next time.
Okay.
Hierarchy and tribalism are the two causes of human misery. Hierarchy and tribalism. And we must transcend hierarchy and tribalism. So there you go.
Thank you.
More later. Thanks, Lindy. Okay, I think we're done. So I will see you all next week. Look forward to it.